to join us too.
Okay, great. So welcome, Alison, Matthew and Agnes, and welcome to everybody watching this webinar. I am Sally Hogg. I am coordinator of the First 1,000 Days movement. I'm also head of policy and comms at the Parent Infant Foundation. I hope everybody watching knows what the First 1,000 Days movement is, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about it just before we start anyway. So we are a campaigning alliance of 200 charities and professional bodies who work together to campaign for change for babies in the first 1,000 days, which is conception to age 2, with a particular focus on early relationships and the things that we know babies need to support their social and emotional development. And we work in 2 ways. So we bring those 200 charities together with a united voice to campaign nationally for change. But we also create common messaging and tools and communications and assets that our members can use to campaign for change in different arenas as well, whether that be in particular services or at a local level. We have an amazing membership. Within that 200 organisations, there are huge national charities doing massive work and tiny little grassroots charities who are really kind of making a difference in a very unique way on the ground as well. And we benefit a lot from bringing together all of the expertise and insight from those different members. And one of the things that our members asked for was more opportunity to hear about what everybody's doing and what learning we can share between ourselves. So that's why we've started doing some more of these webinars, which I hope be a regular programme going forward. And if anybody's listening to this today and say, we really should be sharing what our charity or our organisation is doing on XYZ, do get in touch with me about being involved in a webinar in future. So when I heard about Best Beginnings, who are a really active and incredibly supportive member of the movement, when I heard about the new launch of Baby Buddy 2, I thought, well, that's a perfect topic for one of our webinars, which is why I asked Alison and the team to come today to talk more about what they're doing. So I'm going to stop now and hand over to Alison for the next 55 minutes, and she and the team will take you through the history of Baby Buddy, what's been achieved so far, and all of them fantastic lessons that have been learned, and then what the future looks like as well.
Fantastic. Okay. Thank you, Sal. Oh, everyone that knows me and knows Best Beginnings knows that we're passionate about the power of collaboration. So really excited to have this opportunity to connect with so many fellow members of the First 1,001 Days movement, and also anyone out there that's not yet involved but might like to be. Before I share with you some slides explaining Best Beginnings' work and the app that launched last week, and how it is there to support the vital work you do on the ground, after that, we're going to go into questions, but I think it's really important you get to hear from my wonderful colleagues. So let's just start with a brief introduction from the 3 of us. And then after the presentation, we'll go into Q&A. Put your questions in the Q&A. We'll answer as many as we can. And also another lovely, fantastic colleague, Kay King, might join us during questions as well. So I'm Allison Baum. I'm the founder and CEO of Best Beginnings. I'm going to hand over next to Agnes, who will introduce herself and explain a little bit about her role, then over to Matt, and then we'll go into the kind of the presentation part before we get to the place where you can ask all your questions.
Great. Well, hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name's Agnes Ajipong, and I'm Head of Engagement at Best Beginnings. My role encompasses so many different things, but I always say my favourite part is overseeing our parent panel, because I get to speak with parents every single day, hearing the stories that are going on the ground, and then feeding their insights into the work that we're doing with Baby Buddy, but also into policy level and beyond.
Great.
And hello everyone, my name is Matthew Black. I'm the head of the digital and content team at Best Beginnings. So that is really everything Baby Buddy app related, the technical development, but also the content that goes into the app, working with Agnes and her team and the parent panel to have parent voices inputting on the content that we're creating, video and written content, and then also healthcare professionals and our editorial board of members from Royal Colleges who clinically assure all the content that goes into Baby Buddy.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys. So I've just set my timer because I want to make sure I do no more than 15 minutes of presenting. So you've met the team, and what we're going to do together in this first session is I'm going to tell you about the charity behind the app, what the app that we've just launched does now, but also our direction of travel and how we would love to involve each and every one of you on this webinar to be part of it, because it's all about the power of collaboration. So my slides are not advancing, which is a new thing. Let's do it that way. Yeah, so many of you will already know that as a charity, one of the key ways that we reach families, I guess it's about democratizing access to evidence-based information, so parents can look after themselves and also support their relationships, including that with their baby. Our key vehicle is Baby Buddy, and we've had a version out there. I'll tell you about that in due course, but why we're here today is because we just launched, it's like the confetti just married, Baby Buddy 2.0, which is a free and advert-free tool for all parents across the UK. We've got, and caregivers, we've got different content pathway for mums, for dads, for co-parents, for other caregivers, and we believe it is the first app in the world, if not in the UK, that does provide that quality assured, daily and personalised information, not just for mums and other parents and caregivers, but specifically content for fathers, and more of that shortly. But before I tell you more about the app, I think it's really important to kind of set the scene in terms of the purpose behind it and the thinking behind it, and the rationale for it. And it cuts to the heart of what Best Beginnings does as a charity. We're 15 years old. I founded the charity back in 2006. And from the beginning, we've worked to use that beautiful window of opportunity, pregnancy and the early years. We're now officially a charity that exists to support parents through pregnancy until their child's 5th birthday. And we believe in a society where families of all backgrounds have that knowledge and confidence to look after themselves and their baby. And as part of that, it's about accessing statutory services and incredible frontline services provided by voluntary organisations. And we all know as a group, as part of this fantastic movement that we're part of, that if we can get this right, it doesn't just make a difference to those children and their school readiness or their emotional kind of well-being and bedrock, but it actually has implications for the whole of society. And some of you will be aware of the Nurture and Care framework. I'm just not sure everyone is, so I'm going to spend just a moment on it. It was actually launched by WHO, UNICEF and the World Bank back in 2018. And why we love it at Best Beginnings is because actually it visually articulates what we've been doing for the last many years. It also acknowledges that to drive societal change, we need to take this multi-pronged, system-wide approach. It's about working together to ensure more children don't just survive, but they thrive. And you'll see that infographic on the right with the rings of support around the caregivers. So the caregivers need the information and support to provide nurturing care, but there's a whole system of support, and different organisations operate in or between different rings, as it were. And where Baby Buddy as an app fits in is that it's there to directly inform and empower families, but also importantly to support information flow between different layers of the ring. So for example, a lot of Home Start volunteers are working in the community with families, offering incredible support. And a number of those volunteers are explicitly actively using Baby Buddy as a free tool during contact points, but also to gift to families to use in between times. Also, whether it's midwives or health visitors or whatever your work is, if you do face-to-face work with families, here's a free resource that can enrich your offer. But I also think it's worth noting that it's about ensuring that diverse voices inform policy decisions and implementation of policy. And Baby Buddy also has a role to play in that, in terms of the data, the opportunity to have your voice heard, but also as a charity, we do much more than Baby Buddy. And the reason that gets us up in the morning as a team are the shocking inequalities in outcomes that exist across the UK. It is simply not okay, for example, that a Black woman is 4 times more likely to die in pregnancy than a white woman in 2021. in the UK, nor that there are shocking inequalities across pretty much any measure you look at, including this enormous gap in language development across the socioeconomic based on income of parent. And it's not poverty per se, of course, that leads to this discrepancy. A lot of it is also about giving families access to the information and the support they need to provide that nurturing care. And that's why we're passionate about working together to drive change. Since the very beginning, collaboration, evidence and innovation have been our guiding principles, like golden threads through everything that we do. And we were very involved when we were called the first 1001 Days critical movement, or I've forgotten what we were called, but we've been in this space, I guess, since we founded the charity. Love the new branding of the movement and very proud to be a very active member, because we all know that no individual, no organization or no one sector can really shift things, but it's when we work together, including charities and grassroots organizations, academics and statutory providers, that we can really shift things. This is just a slide as a nod to the importance, not just of the work we do with Baby Buddy, which is the focus of the talk, but just to say how proud we are to collaborate with so many members of the first 1001 Days movement, and specifically the work we've been doing together with Home Start and the Parent Infant Foundation, working together to ensure that we are campaigning actually as a movement so that there is more resourcing to the sector as a whole, because my goodness, we know the evidence. You get the biggest bang for your buck in the early years, but the funding hasn't been flowing. Also on the left, just very proud of the round tables that Agnes organised to ensure that diverse voices were informing the early years review. Now to Baby Buddy and how it all fits together. So some of you know it from way back, because as an app, it originally launched back in 2014. And at the time, my goodness, it was, everything had been DVDs until there, and apps were where it's at. And it has supported, the old version, more than 350,000 parents across the country. And in it are over 300 films, including a lot around maternal mental health and infant mental health, including a number that were launched by the Duchess of Cambridge back in 2017. What we want to assure you is that all that powerful, quality assured, parent-informed content is moving over to the new app. It's just there's a whole heap more besides. So after months and months of intense work, and we actually do need to almost do, I don't know if people can do little flash claps for Matt and the team for technically building the app, and Agnes and the engagement team to ensuring all those parent voices informed the look, the feel, the functionality. But Baby Buddy was born. What I need to do is stop share and now share with sound so that you can hear this little film. Are you ready? Can you hear it? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear it. Here we go. Better get my charger.
The videos, the resources that you have in the app, it encourages, it inspires, it pushed me to be and want to be a better mum.
I think the Baby Buddy app obviously is more in depth, it's very interactive as well. Any questions you need as well, you can, we can add them through the app as well.
The resources and the articles, the videos, they are very relevant to the stage that we are in as first-time parents.
What was just game changer for me is having this app, to have one space of just trusted information.
It's great that Baby Buddy has diverse images and that is really inclusive.
Baby Buddy has a special place in so many people's lives. It is that guiding voice and sometimes that helping hand that you need in the middle of the night.
Wow. Okay. So I'm sorry for the stop and start a little bit on the film there. I do want to take a moment to thank all the parents who let our cameras into their lives over the last, it's actually since 2008, to create the 300 plus films that went into Baby Buddy, and to the thousands of parents who have helped give feedback and help shape and iterate the app. And maybe in questions there, Agnes can have a chance to tell us more about the parent panel and how maybe some of the families you're working with might want to be involved. I do also want to take this moment to formally thank all the endorsing organisations, because they review every single bit of written content and every new film that goes in. And it's been a gargantuan task, actually, taking Baby Buddy to the first birthday. And there's a whole piece to discuss that I'd love to in question time, in terms of how proud we are to have worked with so many fathers organisations, including the Fathers Institute, Future Men, Dad Vengers, the wonderful Mark Williams, Music, Football, Fatherhood and more, to create the Fathers Content Pathway. But I guess one of the key things I did want to spend a moment doing now is just to kind of really acknowledge that this isn't an app, it's so much more. It is a purposeful public health intervention. It has explicitly been developed to inform and empower. It's been purposely created through the lens of proportionate universalism to be used by parents of all backgrounds, all languages, all geographies, all income levels, all ethnicities, all experiences across the UK, and to be most engaging and useful for the families who do experience inequalities, so that together we're improving outcomes across the board, but in a way that also closes the gap, the inequality gap. And if I had more time, I'd tell you more about the other aspects of the kind of the theoretical underpinning. I've touched upon the nurturing care framework, but there's a lot of behaviour change thinking that underpins Baby Buddy too. We got the funding for the new app from the National Lottery, other trusts and foundations as well, but primarily from the National Lottery Community Fund. And interestingly, they had funded the first version way back in 2013. And it's because of the evidence of impact that the first version had, and also our data showing that it was most used by families who experience inequalities, and so much qual feedback also saying it stops at 6 months. Another factor that has enabled us to secure funding for the Father's Content Pathway is the pandemic itself. So during the pandemic, we know how frontline services were massively reduced, and they're still not anywhere near where they need to be. And to support families during that time, Baby Buddy really came into its own, not just for mothers, but also for fathers. And the pandemic didn't only highlight and exacerbate inequalities, it also highlighted the lack of support for fathers. And it was because of that that we secured the funding to create the Father's Content Pathway. I hope that all makes sense. So anyway, we secured the funding. The app has been in beta, which means it's been on the App Store, but not formally launched since early August. And this is early data because it's only been out there a wee while, but of the people that have completed the survey that pops up in app, parents are telling us that this new version is helping them look after their mental health, their physical health. It's helping them learn more about their pregnancy, helping them care for their baby, crucially helping them feel closer to their baby and more confident caring for their baby. And the bottom point, which we hope will go up as a percentage as it's used more purposefully within appointments, the app is also helping parents get more out of their appointments with professionals. It's still nearly 3/4 of parents reporting that. We would love for you all to spread the word. It's free, it's advert free, and it's basically a gift to the country. Agnes talks beautifully about that, and I hope in the question time that will come through. This is where parents are currently hearing about it. So it is mostly from their healthcare professionals. We would love for third sector organisations to use it. And as part of that, we want you to come to us and let us know if we are signposting effectively to your organisation. So we want you to download it, have a play and check, because we are committed to signpost to organisations that offer services that are for free, and where there is no, I guess, industry influence, because we are very much in line with the World Health Organization Code of the Marketing of Milk Substitutes. So I do want to give a nod to those organisations that have reviewed the app and formally endorse it, because that does give frontline professionals the confidence to recommend it to the families they support. And I also hope it will give you confidence that this is a tool that you can trust, and it just is additional to, not instead of, the powerful work you do day in, day out with the families you support. We got some funding from a individual, a major donor, so that we've got leaflets and posters and banners. So it might be that you run a father's group, we've got specific leaflets for dads, or you run groups with mums or mixed. We've got different options. If you've got a community setting, maybe you're in a children's centre, we've got pull-up banners, posters and leaflets. So those of you that love a QR code, you can hold your phone up and snap a photo to get the link. But also, Matt, I was wondering, if you note the code, could you actually put the link into the chat for people too? It's just a simple form, and then if you're interested, Matt or one of the team will be in touch to find out what your needs are, so that you have collateral to help spread the word. The other thing, I guess, it's an invitation that you get behind the social media activity, so that more parents know about Baby Buddy, more fathers, more mothers, more co-parents and caregivers. Our small but dedicated comms team have created an online pack which allows you to take words, images, descriptions, hashtags, and we would love it if you individually, and also using your organization's Twitter or Instagram or Facebook kind of routes, cascade information. You might want to do what Elliot did. We didn't ask him to, nor did we ask Jacqueline Dunkley Bent to. They just did it spontaneously, did their own message. And there's nothing more powerful than a video message. So if you're feeling brave, like the wonderful Elliot from Music Football Fatherhood, we would love it, so that the families you support know that this is a tool that they can use and trust. This is a piece of funding we've just secured. We maybe will come to it in questions, Kay. Kay's here, she's going to be leading on this really exciting project. But in a nutshell, this project will be using Baby Buddy as a key delivery tool, but more of that in questions. The thing that I wanted to note, because I'm keeping an eye on the time, and I'm over, is that, and we can discuss this more in questions, is it's a national app that's freely available everywhere in the UK, and it can be localized with additional content, push notifications, questions, either for an area or in time, and we're committed to doing this with any charity that wants to work with us to secure the funding, to create a bespoke version for the families that you support. So if you're a family you're supporting, we could adapt it so they get the same as everyone else in the country, but they get extra stuff that is really specific around the way you deliver support to families. So we've created this as a research tool, as an empowerment tool, but also to enrich the work that so many frontline charities and organizations offer. We are quite bold and clear, we've been saying this actually since 2015, that our direction of travel is that Baby Buddy will be an electronic maternity record and personal digital child health record. For the time being, it doesn't interoperate with the NHS spine, as it's called, but that is our expressed aim, and Matt can answer questions about that. And I guess the key thing to know is it's out there, it's free, and we want as many families to use it. But we also want you to know this is the beginning of the next phase of this collaborative journey. You know, they say it takes a village to raise a child, Well, in this digital age, it takes huge numbers of charities, individuals, organisations to work together, and funders to fund us, and that's what we're seeking at the moment, so that we can take Baby Buddy to the 5th birthday. And we've got more than 50 organisations already part of the Early Years Digital Partnership, working together to ensure that Baby Buddy is as effective as it can be, to directly empower families, but also to support the implementation of the Healthy Child Programme and more. You might be part of this watching now and want to join us. Fantastic. This is a growing partnership. We don't have the funding to do all that we intend. We're actively seeking funding, and different pieces of work have happened within the umbrella. So the Father's Content Pathway is sort of a mini project under the Early Years Digital Partnership kind of umbrella of activity. We are committed as a partnership to create not just content to the 5th birthday, but different content pathways depending on your experience as a parent, your background, and all the needs of your child. And be part of that journey with us. It really is the more the merrier. You know, the whole is always more than the sum of its parts. In the meantime, there's lots of content in Baby Buddy that has already been created, either through funding joint with another charity, like we've got a lot of films in around supporting the couple relationship that we made with 1+1. And there's other films in there that have been gifted to Baby Buddy by other charities. And as part of that film, we signpost to those charities. So it's making sure more families know about this. And I know, for example, Action on Preeclampsia is a member. I don't know if you're watching at the moment, Marcus, but I'm giving you a shout out in case you are. We also want you to know, if any of you also have an academic hat on, that there's a lot of work already underway in terms of using the app to garner insights from families from diverse backgrounds, so that the evidence is developed based on the diversity that exists in the UK, whereas historically research has unfortunately not reflected that, and Agnes can definitely comment on that. So that's me laying out the stall, and now I'm handing over to my wonderful colleagues. I don't know whether anything's come up in the Q&A. I'll have a look, but in the meantime, I'll keep this slide on. Oh, I think we've got a question. How do I see it? Ooh.
It's a question from Michelle, Alison. It says, how do you address comparable usage by vulnerable families?
Yes. Okay, so I can talk to this based on, actually, this is in the Babies in Lockdown report, the first one that we published in August last year. Matt and the team looked at the data. And interestingly, it's not just that Baby Buddy is more used by families from Black and Asian and minority ethnic backgrounds, and for those for whom English isn't the first language, but the level of usage is higher. So we looked at people that were using the app during that 104 days of the first lockdown as an anonymized and aggregated data set. And what we found was that nationally, about half of users were using it about once a day or more. But amongst Black and Asian minority ethnic families and those for whom English wasn't their first language, these are the people that had told us their ethnicity, and it wasn't a required field, but of the people that answered that question, 85% of them were using the Baby Buddy that much. So they're actually using it more, or more of them are using it more. And that's, I guess, maybe you could talk to that, Agnes, a little bit about why we're not surprised to see that high level of usage from communities that experience inequalities.
Yeah, hi there. Thank you, Alison, and thank you for your presentation. Everything that we do here at Best Beginnings is always being informed by parents, and parents are at the heart of what we do. So I always like to say that Baby Buddy is not a Best Beginnings tool, but actually it's the product of, or the conclusion of, the work that we've done collaboratively with parents. So it's really not a surprise then that when co-production is centered at the heart of the work that we do, that you're going to see disproportionately high levels of people from minoritized ethnic communities and those whose English is not the first language using it because they've helped to create it. To also talk to your question as well, when you're talking about vulnerable questions, vulnerable families, sorry, could you elaborate on that as well? Because I wasn't sure on what aspect of vulnerability. As you know, vulnerability, there is a quite kind of a broad spectrum as well. So I'd really like to understand a little bit more about what aspect are we talking about. School leavers, are we talking about those within the care system? Are we talking, there's kind of different levels. So, and I think each different group sometimes warrants a different answer depending on what stage they're at within their stage.
I don't know if that person is going to write more, but just to say that at the moment you get the same content if you are a different age or different ethnicity or geography, for example, but our aim is to be able to create not instead of but additional content depending on your particular circumstances, if we feel, when we say we, in collaboration with our parent panel, feel that more information would be useful. So at the moment, the app gives different content if you're with a partner or not, if you're breastfeeding or not, but that's just the beginning. And actually, maybe, Kay, you want to join us to talk a little bit about the Safer Beginnings and how we're planning to make different films featuring people from different communities to support them to be able to advocate for themselves.
Absolutely. Sorry you can't see me. I think my video is disabled by the host, but I am here. So wonderful to be here. And thank you.
Have a go now, Kay. I think you should be able to share it now.
Okay. Hello. Lovely to be here.
You're a little bit quiet, so you might have to be extra loud, Kay.
I'll shout at you all. Lovely to be here with you. Thank you, Agnes, and thank you, Alison, for sharing so well on Baby Buddy so far. So I've just begun to work with Best Beginnings on a joint programme of work called Safer Beginnings, which is a new programme that's been funded through the DCMS Tampon Tax Fund. And we're delighted to be able to deliver this programme, which is going to, again, enhance some of the features within Baby Buddy in a way that provides specific care pathways for people who have experienced or who might be vulnerable to experiencing any form of violence on their both pregnancy, antenatal and their childbearing year. So this is for people who maybe wouldn't necessarily identify their situation as being a situation of violence. That might be emotional violence, that might be at risk of obstetric violence through their care pathway. And again, this is going to be another opportunity for there to be those bespoke pathways through the tool of Baby Buddy if people are in those spaces of vulnerability, particularly in a space of self-advocacy. So knowing how to reach out for help, ensuring that all of the partners and the incredible cohort of 16 delivery partners that we've got are able to work with their service users to say, this is how you can use this range of tools to self-advocate for your safety during pregnancy and the early years.
Thank you, Kate. I just saw your follow-on question, Michelle. I mean, we need to be clear. There are no magic wands, and Baby Buddy is not a magic wand. It is a tool that can be there to empower and inform. And there are genuine issues. I saw your question in terms of socioeconomic, around data, I guess, digital poverty. And this isn't just about having the right phone, but actually having the Wi-Fi or access to the data. So I guess to Michelle's point, I want to kind of acknowledge as a charity that we talk about this a lot, and we're in conversations about whether we can find funding to ensure that no family should not have access to this information because they don't have access to either the hardware or the data. On the data front, we just want it to be known that all of the daily information and almost all of the features doesn't need any data. But if you're watching a film or you're using the choice of place of birth feature, it does need data, but you can favorite a film when you're in a clinic. So one of the things that we're encouraging people who work in a clinic setting to do is to favorite films so that it ends up on that person's phone and they can watch it later at home. I don't know if that's helpful. But interestingly, one of the questions that we've asked, maybe you could talk to that, Matt, that we're asking people about their income as an anonymized aggregated set of data so that we as a charity can keep a really close eye to see whether with this new version, just like with the old version, it is proportionate universalism. Do you want to talk to that, Matt, in terms of the questions and the thinking behind the questions and our fear about it being a barrier to on board, but actually what we tested and learned through the beta phase?
Yeah, so historically we've been asking users after a certain number of weeks in using BabyBuddy to complete demographic questions about themselves so that we can better understand who's using the app across the country. And during the beta testing phase of BabyBuddy 2, we tested out adding these demographic questions actually into the onboarding flow of the app to see whether that would have a negative impact on people actually going through and completing and registering an account with us. And it hasn't had a negative impact. So based on that data, we're inclined to keep the demographic questions in the onboarding flow. Of course, users can prefer not to say. They don't have to disclose things such as ethnicity, first language, occupation, income bracket, but the questions are there, and we're not seeing a negative impact on registration completion, and it's helping us better understand the thousands and thousands of parents that are registering each month, and to understand where in local kind of implementation projects and on a national level we need to do more to help particular communities access the resource.
I do think we should give a shout out for Agnes here. One of the reasons I think there's so little dropout, that we've not got people dropping out because of those demographic questions, is because there's a lovely film when you onboard on the app where Agnes explains why we're asking the information, that we're asking it so that we can make sure that we are reaching and supporting families of all backgrounds. So another shout out for Agnes on that lovely film.
Thank you. Sorry. And I want to add as well, something else that we do. I mean, digital doesn't work by itself. People don't hear about digital just through the internet. So we're really big on collaborating with community groups, people who are already on the ground doing amazing work and supporting the work that they're doing, amplifying their voices, and also embedding them within BabyBuddy. And so what we see is that iteration down to their communities and the people that they're working with means that we usually have a really strong network of people who know that this is for them, it's not done to them, and it's in collaboration with them. So I've just found that it's been a tool that people just really feel is just genuine and authentic, and people want to be a part of it. We just need more people to be knowing about it, because as Alison said, we are a tiny charity with a big punch. I don't know if that's the right word, but with a big mind. But what we do need is to be working with more partners and just getting that iteration on the ground so that we can just have a wider reach. But everybody that does hear about it and does know about it wants to hear more about it. So we just need to be working with you guys a lot more to see how we can further embed BabyBuddy into more communities.
Beautifully put. It really is about, this is for everybody, and it's just making sure people know about it, because the people that use it love it, but people don't hear. We don't have a marketing budget, we don't have an advertising budget, we have no commercial interests, which is what makes this special and unique. But it means therefore that we need people. It's people-driven change. So it's you out there recommending it or using it with the families you support. And if you complete the form that maybe Matt post it again because it's further up, you could use leaflets not just in the work you do with families, if you're kind of face-to-face practitioner, or for your organization to give to your people that go out on the ground, but let's say you're involved in a mosque or a temple or a synagogue or a church or whatever, and you want to get some leaflets to distribute or posters to put up on the local boards. Fantastic. You know, if you want to get more involved and get leaflets and posters out to pharmacies, you know, at the point where people get their pregnancy test. So it's basically, we invite you to get as involved as you would like to. What we don't have is funding to build this content to the 5th birthday, but we are working on funding applications, including one to the National Lottery. And we're also getting discrete pieces of work funded with different charity partners. So for example, Home Start UK and Best Beginnings, we worked together. We got funding from the Royal Foundation, and we've trained scores of Home Start volunteers to use BabyBuddy as part of what they offer, not instead of, but that kind of enrichment piece. Are there any other questions? I've seen something from Jules come through as a grandma. Yeah, so that's also on the plan, but without the funding. We'd love to have the grandparent content pathway. And also had a really fantastic conversation last week with Elliot Ray, who set up Music Football Fatherhood, and he was talking about siblings and how older siblings are so often sort of alienated and left aside, and how powerful that sibling bond can be. And I said, I know we would love to have funding for a content pathway for siblings, to that little nugget of knowledge every day that kind of tells you what's going on with your mum, or what's going on with your baby, to support you to be a brain builder, not just the parents to be able to, but the big sisters or brothers. Agnes, do you want to talk to that? I know you've got.
Yeah, and I just want to add, I mean, when you said about a grandmother, like my mum helps me tremendously. My youngest child is about 1,200 and something days, so just a little bit over the 1,001. I'm a mum of 3, and I mean, Baby Buddy kind of encapsulates that kind of better birth pathway, where we understand the importance of the family as a whole supporting the mum to be the best mum that she can be. So of course the overall ambition would be that mums, grandparents, sisters, you know, whoever's co-parents, whoever's within that family unit can get that daily piece of information. So I'm really happy to kind of pick up and speak with you to kind of see and learn from, or just kind of get some ideas of how we can make that happen. But we're all coming down the same hymn sheet, but it's just about getting that funding so that we can actually action that.
I might just also point out, I mean, whilst the content pipeline, the content pathways for the wider family users of the app is in the pipeline, you can still register with the app as a grandparent, as a sibling, auntie, uncle, and be able to see the content that parents be, co-parent, caregiver would be seeing. So still do use it and encourage your wider family to use Baby Buddy.
Well, thank you for saying that. And it's really, really, really important. Like when you're pregnant and you're expecting your baby, sometimes it could be your sister that you're always speaking with, it could be that cousin, it could be your mum, it could be whoever that is. And actually knowing that they are, you know, getting the same pieces of information as you are, and they can log on and they can get that daily information. They can even remind you, are you drinking enough water, or, you know, your baby's this size, and it's dedicated to that other co-parent or that other friend. It's so important, it's so empowering, and it ultimately it helps that mum in that journey, that pregnant woman. So please do download and have a play with it. If you know any other pregnant women at the moment, you know, please do promote it to her, or do get her to download it and have a play. And if you have any feedback as well, we want to hear from you. So I'll put my email in the chat function for you to get back to me.
Yeah, definitely put your feedback in, put your email in so people can feedback. The other thing just to mention is there's a lot of work going on in terms of integrating it into local care pathways. I don't know if we need to wrap up, Sal. Can I mention?
No, keep going. I was going to come on and ask you an extra question.
Good. I'd love an extra question.
But keep talking first.
I'd love also to hear a bit more about safer birth, because I realise Kay was explaining it beautifully, and I saw that question come in from Michelle, so I didn't give Kay, I think, quite enough time to explain the importance of the Safer Beginnings work. But one thing I wanted to mention before maybe I head back to Kay to talk more about that is that we have been funded by Surrey Heartlands ICS as a whole integrated care system to integrate Baby Buddy across maternity in the early years. And we would be delighted to do that in more areas. We've also just been funded to do that across Leeds and in North East London. So the idea is that in those localities, we're creating extra bits for families based on their strategic priorities and or their particular population level. And if we think to the Andrea Ledson review and the call for parent and carer panels, in addition to physical panels where people show up at meetings, we're in conversations with a few areas about using the app to gather feedback from families in that locality about their experiences of services in that area to support that quality improvement piece. So it's an information gathering tool as well as information giving tool, if that makes sense. But the bit that I'd love Kay to talk about, because I think it's really interesting, for, you know, some time we've had these You and Your Partner films as an example in Baby Buddy, which talk about strengthening relationships but what if you don't have a healthy relationship and you don't know? So I don't know if you're still there, Kay, but you might want to talk about sort of the power of film to help people spot the signs and then signpost to support.
Yeah, thank you, Alison. Can you hear me okay?
You're a bit quiet, so just go into projection mode.
Shout again. Yeah, thank you. I think, you know, what Baby Buddy and all of the work of Best Beginnings really evidences is that when we see people through film and through story, we elicit more empathy, we elicit more understanding rather than just data and facts. And people don't necessarily see themselves in data and numbers. They see themselves when they hear stories and they see examples of people from their community sharing the same experience. And particularly in the realm of violence that informs maternity, we don't know yet how it is that we need to be directly reaching people who are dealing with the duplicity of the vulnerability of their pregnancy and early years with child, and also violence. We're going to be working with lots of stakeholders on this program to really identify ways in which we can create films that enable people to see themselves in that circumstance and also find a route to safety. Because like you say, you know, this isn't always about people who have got their village or their network or their people or their partner with them. This might be people who are actually in hugely vulnerable circumstances based on emotional or domestic violence. And we're going to be working with a lot of specialist agencies and organisations with some onward grants as well through the programme to support us to really build that. But I think what we do know is, in terms of perinatal mental health, we do know that people who have had traumatic birth, which may have been informed by obstetric violence, that is something that hugely impacts people in their well-being of the first few years with their child. And there aren't necessarily generic pathways of care for people who would define what they have had happen to their bodies or happen in a clinical environment as violence to their bodies, to really specifically address that and address maybe the grief that goes with that, the healing that goes with that, the rebuilding of themselves that goes with that after experiencing something like obstetric violence. It's not spoken about, it's not really talked about within general perinatal care. So hopefully through the Safer Beginnings program, we are going to be able to create new films and content with all of these partners and all of their service users that really pull out some of these ways for us to connect with people so that they can see themselves in that content.
Thank you, Kay. Did you have a question or questions for us, Sal?
I had a couple. I'll take the liberty of asking, given no one else is asking any. So one, obviously, the Parent Infant Foundation, where I'm based, is focused on infant mental health. So I wondered if you could say a little bit about the content around infant mental health and early relationships. That was my first question. I'll ask the other one, and then you can just talk about both. The other one, I was thinking about what would be useful, what other things, what learning might you have that's useful for our wider attendees? And I was thinking about what data, this might be one more for Matthew, about what do people really like looking at, and what do they spend time on, and what have we learned, what have you guys learned that you could share with us about parents and what they want to know during this period?
Well, both very meaty questions. Let's go first with infant mental health. So I guess what's I guess powerful about Baby Buddy, and the core idea behind it is, in life we don't know what we don't know. So if the app isn't being used by people who are downloading it to say, I want to maximize my infant's mental health, what do I do? It's more, just help me on the journey in a kind of non-specific way. But it's that nugget of knowledge every day that builds onto that nurturing care framework, the different components of nurturing care, and it starts in pregnancy. So some of the most watched films are actually in utero MRI images showing babies at different gestational ages. I don't know whether, Matt, in the background, you can tee them up or we can look at them together. And films, one of my favorite films is a mum, Morgan, talking to her bump and explaining why she's enjoying talking to her baby. So this starts in utero, that bonding, that kind of mentalization, that mind-mindedness. And actually, for those of you that have been in this space for a while, like Sal and I, Baby Buddy, way back when, was informed by that Pregnancy, Birth and Beyond work stream, 2010-11, that we were involved with, Department of Health, where it was identifying kind of course materials in an antenatal kind of setting in terms of what we want families to know. But we knew that not all families would get access to that. And that was kind of part of where the idea of Baby Buddy was born. And then there's quite a lot of films antenatally kind of teeing up the idea that your baby is born with that communicative intent, although it uses much, much simpler language. But the films, maybe Matt, you could share screen and show us some of the beautiful Understanding Your Baby films, maybe even my favorite one, which is a lovely chat between a dad and their baby. Okay. So this is live demo of like a computer version of the app. Do you want to maybe click on one of the intro one or Daddy Talk? Doesn't matter which one you want to click on. A lot of these films were actually funded by Leeds as part of a kind of making films that covered the content that was in the Understanding Your Baby booklet. Maybe what your baby is telling you. Why don't you click on that one? And we'll just play even if it's just 30 seconds or so of it. I'll let you know if we can hear you, Matt.
Fear I might not be sharing sound, but
okay. But there are lots of films around to support, but you don't have to go search for them. Do you want to try and unshare and share sound? They pop up in your daily stream, but then you can go and search for more. Does that give enough, or do we try and get sound, Sal? Because we could go to your next question.
Why don't you answer my next question while Matt's sorting sound out?
Okay, well, I want Matt to answer it, because what's so cool is there's a whole thing that his team have been doing around, you said we did, about how it's evolved over the years. Oh my goodness, we looked way back to what it looked like in 2012 before we had any funding. So Matt, do you want to give examples of things that we've changed during this beta testing phase? Maybe don't worry about the film. We want people to download it and use it. But it's about 10,000 people have been beta testing it. And what maybe example 2 or 3 things that...
Yeah, so I mean, the original question was about what the parents particularly like about the app and what they're accessing, and I think Alison has sort of answered that around content wise, and we've got particular areas of set categories of films that are more popular and are regularly rewatched by users. Kind of 2 years ago, when we acquired the funding to start building a new version of the app, we went through a big data dive into like how people were actually using the first version of the app, which features were the most effective and regularly used. Daily information really is the kind of that buddy, that best friend that is there every single day from conception to the first birthday now, that everybody was telling us that they loved, and that just reliable 10 a.m. notification that comes through with that bite-sized nugget of information that is then the kind of gateway to more and more content that they can explore in the app. It was clear to us that we needed to keep that structure and for that to be the gateway into all of the rest of the content that's in there, because there's a lot to consume and it needs to be curated and kind of delivered at a manageable rate, I would say. And so I hope that we seem to have gotten that right with the new version, the pace of content delivery, but the navigation has become a lot more user-friendly. We've got this discover section in the app where you can ask questions, but there's a lot more visuals and kind of more modern design, I suppose, in the way that the app looks, which is making it a bit easier for people to navigate. And in terms of what people have been telling us during the beta testing, it's kind of covered everything from real parents, healthcare professionals spotting bugs in the test versions and helping us to identify what things we needed to fix, but actually to changing things in the onboarding flow, to moving questions to later in the app, to correcting or spotting a spelling mistake in the content, which has all been resolved with the help of these 10,000 testers of the app. And so, but it's kind of an evolving process, and so we get regular feedback, and we've still got live feedback forms in the app for people to complete and let us know how we can improve, because I think we kind of see ourselves, Best Beginnings, as the custodian of this app, and we're kind of going through the development of it, and we can manage it, but really it's the experts out there, experts by experience, experts by profession, that are actually telling us what we need to do, and that is the most important part. So we want it to be this living, breathing app that everybody's helping and contributing to over time.
Thanks, Matt. I'm going to just put everybody back on the spotlight, and we've got 2 minutes left. So I wonder if you have any closing comments, Alison, before we...
I guess I want to say, we used to say, because someone in the team said, Baby Buddy's like a TARDIS. It's small on the outside, but you go in and there's a whole huge world. I was running some training in Surrey, and someone said, no, it's not a TARDIS. It's the Tri-Wizard tournament tent in Harry Potter. So we don't mind what you call it, and would love to have another metaphor for its in the kind of the depth and the breadth of the content. But what we invite you to do is to download it and use it. If you're using it in a professional capacity, you can go in professional mode, and then you can see 4 different 2 antenatal and 2 postnatal babies, and you can toggle between them. But I'd rather leave the last word. I mean, I just want to say, get involved, email us, we're in this together. But I'd like to leave the last word to you, Agnes, if you'd like to, as our head of engagement.
Well, thank you so much, Alison, and thank you to everyone who's taken their time out to come and watch our webinar. This is the beginning. You know, we're really at the beginning of a new phase of Baby Buddy, and we want all of you to be a part of this journey. So please do reach out. I have put my email inside the chat. There's Alison and Matt as well. Do reach out to us so that we can see how collaboratively we can work together to just ensure that everybody benefits from the hard work that we've done with Baby Buddy 2.0. Thank you.
Actually, can I end by just thanking Sal? Should I do that on behalf of everybody?
Agnes, sorry, Sal, I forgot to.
Yeah.
All right.
Just thank you for this opportunity. We're so proud to be part of the 1001 Days Critical. It's changed names, and I'm still
First 1001 Days movement.
I should know by now. But yeah, I that's the only thing I wanted to add. I forgot to say before I hand it over to you. Just really proud to be working together to make a difference.
You know, it's brilliant to be working with you, and thank you for your time today. Thanks to everybody who's dialed in and watched. And if you've got any more questions, Alison and the team have put their email addresses in the chat, so note those down and get in touch. And if you've got ideas for the first 1001 Days movement webinars, please do get in touch with us as well. Okay, have a good rest of the day. Thank you, everybody, and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.